Now that our group has finished our film opening, we can look back at our prelim and talk about what we've learned. Research for our preliminary task was viewing other tasks by past students and looking at how they finished it. We then came up with our own ideas so that we were able to create our own preliminary task. We made sure that we knew what we had to include in it by creating a storyboard. Not much planning was involved and it wasn't well thought through. Consequently, our preliminary task faced problems. The shots are not lined up with our eye line, and there are parts where the camera isn't straight, which makes it look unprofessional. Any improvements that we need to be made?
I think there were certain bits where the acting wasn't consistent.
Think we need to do any improvements?
Make speech a bit clearer and don't put like audio, like music over the speech.
Alright, thanks. The mistakes we have made from our peer reviews, we knew that we had to do some things differently when doing our main task. Research for our film opening was very detailed compared to our preliminary task. This was because we were aware that it wasn't significant, which affected the outcome. This time round, we done a lot more research, for example, researching our audience, interviewing our audience to see what they like about our chosen genre, and constructing a mind map of our ideas related to film openings. Due to the mistakes we made in our preliminary task, we decided that more research needs to be done so that we can gain a successful outcome. We looked into detail of how the themes in our genre are portrayed, as it was important for the audience to recognise this genre. We then had to come up with a film plot, which we found difficult because it had to be interesting and engaging. As a result, we turned to films of the same genre for inspiration, and existing codes and conventions for horror and thriller films tend to follow. After we decided the film plot, we thought about our characters' personalities. They were inspired by the typical stereotypes related to the genre horror and thriller. We learned about our chosen genre being thriller allowed us to move forward with our preparation. However, there was little preparation for our preliminary task. As a result, we ran into a lot of problems that we could have avoided having planned further. After creating our storyboard, which was detailed scene to scene including camera shots, we immediately began to film. We learned that we had to do things differently to increase our chances of success. When preparing to shoot our main task, we put in a lot of thought into our character's costume. When we filmed our preliminary task, we faced a lot of problems. For example, the soundtrack was too loud, so the audience couldn't hear the dialogue. Also, the camera was very shaky because we didn't use a tripod. However, this taught us what we need to do in our main task and how we can make our skills better. In our main task, we decided not to use dialogue, however, still keep the soundtrack low so that the main focus remains on action. We also decided to use a tripod for a more professional final media product. Another mistake that was brought to my attention is that the narrative was confusing. This was because it contrasted with the scene before, as the lighting was bright and the music was upbeat, then all of a sudden transformed to dark lighting and a low, slow soundtrack. In our main task, we avoided repeating this mistake. Although the lighting was dark and gloomy, it fit perfectly with the film genre, as dark has connotations of hate, evil, and death, which are terms that reflect the themes of my product. The way in which my preliminary task was edited was poor. The transitions from scene to scene were rough and jumpy, which looked unprofessional. In our main task, I feel that the transitions from each scene were smooth, and we were successful in achieving that professional look. We had a lot of trouble finding music that matched the action going on in the main task that wasn't copyright. In the end, we found one that pulls everything together as well as emphasising the film genre.